Hey everybody, welcome to LettermenRow.com. I am Jeremy Birmingham. This is Talking Stuff, the Ohio State recruiting podcast brought to you by Buyers Automotive. If you're looking for an auto, head to buyersauto.com and check out their selection of new and used cars anywhere in Central Ohio. They're all over the place. If you're looking for stuff, well, then you're in the right spot because that's what we're talking about here on the show. I will be joined by Zack Carpenter and, of course, Spencer Holbrook. We're going to talk about where we spent the last week, which recruits we saw, and anything else that we deem important in the world of Ohio State football recruiting. So let's get to the show. Welcome back to Talking Stuff. We're started. Spencer will join us in a moment. But for the minute, at the beginning of the show, it's just me and Zack, because I wanted to get a little bit of a deeper dive into Zack's last week. We did not have an episode last week because Zack was on the road. I was on the road a little bit, and Zack was in North Carolina, South Carolina. You were on the border, right?
Yeah, it's like 5-10 miles from Charlotte. So it's basically a Charlotte suburb down Catawba Ridge.
Right. So you were in Catawba Ridge for a week. Why the heck would one person go to Catawba Ridge, South Carolina for a week, Zack?
For the barbecue in Charlotte, obviously. What other reason would I go? Yeah, it was an opportunity I got that it was one of my favorite opportunities I've ever gotten a chance to do. I went down to South Carolina, Catawba Ridge High School to see Jaden Davis. He's Ohio State's top quarterback target in the 2024 class. He camped at Ohio State and was, probably the best offensive player, regardless of class, one of them at least.
Yeah.
And went down there to get an exclusive sort of week in the life behind the scenes of basically a five-star quarterback. And a funny story, I pitched the idea to go down, and then it was approved. And 2 days later, he was ranked as the number one overall player. So that was perfect timing. But yeah, I went down. I sat in on every practice they had. I sat in on the film session they had that week, which is probably the most important aspect of the whole trip, other than the game itself. I got into the locker room pregame and at halftime. Just really, it was like an all access behind the scenes deal with Jaden. Sort of just about the rise of a young quarterback, 5-star caliber guy. And it was really, it like went pretty much to perfection for how I envisioned it.
Yeah.
Because I got to see the first, I talked to quarterback trainers, coaches, Jaden himself about his actual mechanics, like what makes him such a great quarterback prospect. I talked about his offense, how it's basically ripped straight from Oklahoma, how he fits Ohio State's offense and all that. I got into his family life. I really got to know his parents, on a deeper level, in his family. And then my plan was for that all to culminate on game night into one, you see all the aspects of this whole week at play. And that's exactly what happened in the most perfect way possible. Because I don't think I told you this, that it was way better that they struggled. So they struggled in the first half at 7-7, which was better than just blowing them out or them getting blown out. 7-7. And it was like the scene in Saving Private Ryan when Tom Hanks, you're not going to be less than 5 feet away from me. And that's non-negotiable. I was basically, when Jaden was on the sideline, I was within 10 feet of him when they're doing mid-game film sessions and everything. And he had a couple bad passes. He had a couple that could have been intercepted. He wasn't playing well. Team wasn't playing well. Frustrations are flying. And he's just the face of calm. Everything I heard about him all week, he was just very calm when everyone was struggling. And he was encouraging. He was just completely level-headed and focused. The halftime locker room was awesome because he stood up, gave this fiery, passionate speech that I can only repeat half of what he said, obviously, but he just kept saying he kept repeating the same phrase. It's going to pop off. It's going to pop off, which means the offense.
To me, that's just vodka. That's just vodka to me.
Yeah, I was going to say we might have different definitions of what it's going to pop off means, but he just kept saying that. And then one of the game-breaking plays, one of his teammates right behind me just says quietly, Jaden's going to make a play. Boom, 25-yard completion, boom, touchdown, 14-7. And that all culminated in the biggest play of the night, where in the film session on Tuesday before the Friday night game, there was one play that they noticed, they designed whenever they go trips, their opponent's backside safety creeps up. And as their coach, Zach Lendak, as he's explaining to Jaden like what they want to do, he just cuts him off. He goes, "Yeah, I'll hit the X post." He's like, "Yep." And then they set it up all game. And then boom, you see him. He rolls out. You can see it in the clip I put on Twitter. Rolls out to the left, sets his feet, and you see the backside safety creep up. Receiver in single coverage beats his man, and Jaden just throws a laser with like the perfect amount of touch. Boom, 21-7. He comes over, just yelling, "This is my city." Like it was just like it was an electric moment that like all
his suburb. It's his suburb.
It's his suburb. Well, yeah. Well, I guess Fort Mill. It was a heated rivalry game and everything. It was an awesome week that like culminated pretty much perfectly, and it was cool because I went down there not wanting to talk about the Justin Fields comparisons because you'd already written about that, but then you go down there and it's like I'm laughing at everything that he compares to Justin Fields with, like his throwing motion, the way he claps for the snap, like the like focused look that he has when he has the helmet on, and then his mannerisms, the way he responds to questions. Like they had the same like stammers when Justin Fields was going through press conferences at Ohio State. Jaden has the same basically the same cadence as he talks, but it was just it is an in-depth series. It's a 5-part series, and I hope people will take some time to go read that on our site. But
yeah, I thought it was great. I thought you did a really great job with that. I mean, obviously for people watching this, like they heard me just glowing about what I saw out of Jaden on the field in June. And as we've gotten to know him over these last few months, it does seem very obvious that people know that he's from Georgia originally. People are going to try to assume that he's going to follow Justin Fields' footsteps and go to Georgia. So, some people, he's in South Carolina, he's going to go to Clemson. Like, as we look at this take it with a grain of salt because there's 2 years of high school left for Jaden Davis. Probably. I mean, I guess we could ask about that reclassification thing again 6 months from now. Maybe it changes. But this kid, the Ohio State interest is extremely real for Jaden Davis. So real that he's returning to campus for the Oregon game in 2 weeks. It's an opportunity for him to see the program up close again. And I'm telling you, and this is Zach, I mean, you have probably a good feel for him right now. I think this opportunity in the class of 23, especially if Ohio State isn't able to reel in Drew Allar, who I went and saw on Friday. We'll talk about that once we bring Spencer on. If they don't bring in Drew Allar, then that 23 class becomes a totally different thing in my mind. And I wonder how receptive Jaden would be to that idea of reclassifying. Did you get any sense of that?
I got the sense that it's not, because I asked directly, and I got the sense that it's something that they've kind of thought about, but not really. It's still too early. They want this season to play out. They want to see how quarterback recruiting dominoes fall over the course of the next year. And remember, he was originally in the 23, right, and then reclassified to 2024. So I do think it's a possibility, but that's not something that they've really taken a deep dive into yet. And I do think if something like, I know we'll talk about Drew Allar in a second, but I think that if Ohio State winds up offering, if they do flip him from Penn State, that basically, like we've talked about, resets the quarterback timeline, because it was a perfect scenario. Just looking at through the Jaden Davis lens, perfect scenario of Ewers comes in 2022, starts in 23 and 24, and then someone like a Jaden Davis comes in and sits for 1 year in 24 and then starts the next 2 seasons, because he's someone who wants to come in and learn a college system for a year, get all that under his belt while not playing, maybe playing in not garbage time, but not playing a ton of meaningful snaps in his first year, and then start his second and third year. So that was the perfect scenario originally lined up at Ohio State. And now it's incredibly interesting to see how these dominoes are going to fall. And like the 23 class, I know Nico's their number one target, and they might wind up going the graduate transfer route of some sort. I'm wondering if that winds up being the case to kind of reset this timeline.
There's so many dominoes at play, and I wanted to just start this episode of Talking Stuff presented by Buyers Auto just with me and Zach, so people could talk a little bit more about this Jaden Davis thing. If you haven't read it, go to lettermenrow.com. Make sure you read all of Zach's work on Jaden Davis, the 5-part series. It was really great. We are going to take a break, let the sponsors do their thing on the internets, and we'll be right back with Spencer Holbrook joining us. Okay, we're back. Spencer's here. Hi, Spencer.
How's it going?
It's going well. Spencer, we were talking about quarterback recruiting in the class of 2024, but we'd be remiss if we didn't start talking about 22 because the questions are coming fast and furious from people out there about the class of 2022 and quarterback situation. And I wrote about it on Monday on Lettermen Row. I really think at this point it's likely Drew Allar or bust in the class of 2022 when it comes to a prep quarterback. I do think obviously Ohio State is likely to be forced to search for a transfer after the season, whether it's a grad transfer, whether it's a transfer with some extra time, because now it doesn't matter since you can automatically be eligible. I think that is up in the air, but clearly whoever leaves the Ohio State quarterback room and how many guys leave the quarterback room changes a lot of these things. But Drew Allar, who I saw on Friday night as Medina played Avon, I think that he's going to be that guy. Drew told me on Friday, Ohio State has still not reached out to him. I have heard from multiple people at Ohio State that they are 100% going to be reaching out to him. So the question is, when does it happen? Is there a best timeline? Are they trying to formulate like the perfect plan to go ahead and say, okay, this is what we need to present to him? I mean, it's just such a weird dynamic because I'm telling you guys, like a year ago in November, like the week before Quinn Ewers decided he was going to decommit from Texas. Like, I swear Ohio State was like this close to offering Drew Allar at that time because he was blowing up the state playoffs in Ohio. He was dominating really good teams. He seemed to play the perfect role for Ohio State with what they were going to do with CJ Stroud and Kyle McCord. And then everything sort of changed. And like we were talking about right before the break, Spencer, is that these quarterback dominoes, like there is no easy plan because the plan keeps changing because the dominoes keep being picked up and moved. And like, how the hell do you play dominoes anymore?
Well, it's all coming pretty fast and pretty furious, like you said, Vern. Maybe too fast and too furious, if I will. But at this point, I'm not going to be surprised if Ohio State reaches out to Drew Allar on Saturday, because if you think about it, August is over, the recruiting dead period is over. Then Ohio State plays on a Thursday night, and high schools just happen to play on Friday nights. And so then you have your Saturday off, and Drew Allar, the day after Drew Allar plays, Ohio State has off, and it's not a dead period anymore. So I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for Ohio State to officially say, hey, why don't you try to come to a game? Why don't we start to formulate some conversations here? And the first week that they talk to him, they can say, hey, we're about to beat the crap out of Oregon. And then when we beat Penn State, you'll really, that'll really ramp up the juice. I just think this is like the perfect time for Ohio State to start talking to him.
And there's at least an outside chance that Wisconsin beats Penn State on Saturday. And so you start to feel like maybe you can exploit a crack there, I guess. I don't know. But Zach, here's the thing for me, like the dead period is over in a couple of days here. Ohio State can go watch Drew Allar play on Friday night. They can just show up and watch him play, which I think would be a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him. But at this point, as Spencer said, you have to Fast and Furious 9 this situation, don't you? You got to like go all in. You got to pull out Vin Diesel, The Rock, John Cena, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, one would say that you have to do a little Tokyo drift into recruiting Drew Allar. How'd I do? Spencer, rate it. Scale of 1 to 10.
I'm gonna give it a 6. I mean,
I don't even know.
That's better than what I thought. Actually,
I don't even know how you Tokyo drift into a recruitment. I mean, I think you need to go all in here if you're Ohio State. And does that start on Friday by just going to see him play and just showing up?
Well, it is interesting because, I mean, the in-person evaluation of quarterbacks is something that's been a staple for Ohio State staff. They've hammered that point home over and over. And I know I'm wondering if first of all, I do think they need to see him in person because I've talked to one of his quarterback trainers, Brad Mendler, and he talked to me about the complete retooling of his mechanics that he's undergone the past 2 years. So I think if the Buckeye staff sees that up close and gets that thorough evaluation, sees that, I'm wondering if that could wind up being the last step, the next step, in them officially wanting to go all in on an offer. What did you notice, Berm, from him mechanically, decision making wise? What did you notice from him when you saw him?
I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, I'd seen Drew, last summer at the Obetz, the Fortress at Obetz, the camp there. I saw him at the Elite 11. The difference between last year and now is night and day. I mean, it is a huge jump he's made physically. The kid is a college ready quarterback, 6'5", 230 pounds. Like he has done the work. And I think that Ohio State, again, I don't like to say that they're late on someone, because you're not late in this situation. They had a commitment from Quinn Ewers, the number one quarterback in the country, a generational quarterback talent. They were recruiting Drew Allar. They liked a lot of what they saw to Drew Allar, but every coach in the country would have picked Quinn Ewers over Drew Allar at that point. And I don't think it's fair to say that they missed or that they were behind, but I think it's obvious that at this juncture, they're behind. And now, like, you've lost a year of development and relationship. And I think Ohio State has a couple approaches here. Number one, it's his dream school. You got to try to that dream can be a reality. Here it is. Number two, Mike Yurcich, who is leading the charge for Penn State. Ryan Day can very simply say Mike Yurcich has been at 3 schools in 3 years. He was running my offense at Ohio State when he became a hot commodity as far as, going to Texas and Penn State. The depth chart at Ohio State is pretty favorable at this point. You come in, you sit for a year, you then are fighting for a job pretty much. And at the very least, you figure that he's the starter by 2024. So there's a lot of ways to spill this. But as far as what the Buckeyes are looking for, I mean, I don't know, Spencer. I just don't think they're going to offer anybody else if it's not Allar in the class of 2022. The top 34 guys are committed. There's just no one else.
Yeah, I completely agree. If it's not Drew Allar, then I think you just take a loss on you don't really take a loss, but because the quarterback room's loaded, but you just kind of take it to 23 and just
you take a different route, but I don't even think that they will. Honest to God, I really think the situation that they have is such that they can still do what they were going to do in 23 if they can find a good transfer. And that's why the game has changed so much. But I mean, I don't know. It just seems like how do you handle that?
And I think that's another reason why Ohio State might want to slow play this, even if they need to get in this battle for Drew. I'm not going to call it a battle yet, but if they need to get in the conversations with Drew Allar, they need to do that soon. But they also have the option of slow playing it and just seeing what happens, seeing if there's some mutual interest there, which we believe there is. And if there is, then it's just icing on the cake of what is already a loaded quarterback room. If there's not, then you're going to the transfer portal anyways in this offseason, finding a quarterback and then going all in 23. It really, like you said, Berm, it really doesn't change. Everybody freaked out when Quinn Ewers decided he was going to come early. Nothing really changes for the Ohio State quarterback room other than who might be taking the snaps.
Yeah, what changes is that if guys transfer, things change drastically. So you just don't know. I believe that Drew Allar will pick up the phone when Ryan Day and Ohio State called him. I have no real feel/read on what he will do after that. I think that it is extremely hard to look at what he's helped build at Penn State and easily peel him away from it. But the Buckeyes would have to have something very concrete and special to say this is what it's going to be for you here, right?
But if you look, sorry, Zach, I don't mean to take over here, but
I really want to talk. I haven't talked in a while. I'm really dying over here. I'm shaking.
I just real quick, if you look at the way James Franklin has developed, which I would not use the word developed, his quarterback. Sean Clifford, not Liam Clifford, Sean Clifford. If you look at the way that Sean Clifford's been developed, then you look at any quarterback since Ryan Day took over at Ohio State and the way they've been developed. Not only is it the dream school, not only is there the Mike Yurcich factor of Ryan Day knowing exactly who Mike Yurcich is and knowing who James Franklin is, but then it's just, okay, do you want to be developed by Ryan Day, or do you want to be developed or not developed by whoever James Franklin has as his offensive coordinator? And that's the bottom line. And if Drew Allar still wants to be a part of that Penn State class, which he helped build, I would completely understand if he wanted to, then you just, like I said, you take the wash, you go to 23. Go ahead, Zach.
And I mean, that's pretty much exactly the point that I was going to bring up is, do you guys kind of feel like that it comes down to what do you think is most valuable to Drew Allar, like potentially starting at 2 years at Penn State and going that development route, or most realistically getting just 1 year to start at Ohio State and being surrounded by that receiver talent and that coaching staff? I mean, I feel like that might be what it comes down to in the bare bones of the recruitment.
I think a lot of that comes down to coaching consistency. I think that if there is, like I said, a crack to exploit, it might be Mike Yurcich's track record. I also think that it's easy to point to Christian Hackenberg and his lack of development when James Franklin got to Penn State. Trace McSorley certainly was explosive and had dynamic seasons, but a lot of that was under Joe Moorhead. And then once he left, you see what their offense done. This is an offense that is in dire straits as far as trying to prove that they can renovate and update and be, a modern offense. So if they come out of the gate and struggle, I think that there's an opportunity for Ohio State. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. We're pushing minutes here. Spencer, let's just get straight to it, man. You're the MC when it comes to in or out. Let's do a couple and then we'll get folks out of here.
All right, let's 23, the 2023 class, correct?
Sure, whatever.
Let's go. Let's just start with a big one. Carnell Tate.
Out.
In.
I say out. I mean, that's what I wanted to bring up about the Ohio State versus Notre Dame battle, because it feels like it's been an Ohio State versus Notre Dame battle before he even got offered by either program. I know when he was offered by each one, he talked about how it was his dream school, or how like that he basically talked like he was already committed when I talked to him about his Ohio State offer. But it does come down to, again, we talk about that development route. But I know that Notre Dame is pushing the receiver depth at Ohio State as something to be on a positive for them, because you do have, but when you look at it in the 21 class, I think the only guys who would be that bigger body, longer receiver at Ohio State, the main guys he would be competing with would be Marvin Harrison Jr. and maybe Kojo Antwi. I don't know. I can't remember if the development path is as him as an outside receiver, but I know he's a little less long. I think he's like 6 foot, 160 compared to Carnell. He's like 6'2", 180. But yeah, I mean, you take it from here just based on the receiver depth.
Yeah, I think it's an in, and I think it's because that receiver depth piece is being misrepresented, as you said. I don't know that by the time that Carnell Tate in the class of 2023 arrives on campus at Ohio State or Notre Dame, Julian Fleming will be gone, Jackson Smith and Jigba will be gone, Garrett Wilson will be gone, Chris Olave will be gone. You're probably having at that point one more season of Emeka Ibuka and Marvin Harrison. Then you have the class of 2022 with Keon Grays and Kojo Antwi, Caleb Brown, who's kind of a combo guy, and Caleb Burton, who are all sort of similar. Kojo and Keon and Caleb are all that 6 foot, 175 pounder, the Garrett Wilson types, Chris Olave types. And then you see what I think with Carnell Tate, maybe that 6'2.5", 6'3", bigger, longer. I don't know. I just feel like I can't bet against Brian Hartline in these battles, and I think it's an in for Ohio State. I really do. I also think it's interesting. Notre Dame's going to send like 5 coaches to the IMG LaSalle game on Friday night in Cincinnati. I don't know if Brian Hartline and the Buckeyes are intending to be there, but I'd certainly be shocked if they weren't there. And that sort of opportunity again, just to get FaceTime with these kids anytime they can. 2 weekends in a row for Caleb Burton, for Carnell Tate here in Ohio. I just think that the Buckeyes are gonna find a way to get that done. He is visiting Notre Dame the weekend before his announcement on October 8th. So here's the thing I'm just going to throw out there. That's a Friday night, right? Wherever he commits, I think he's going to be on Saturday, October 9th. So he's visiting Notre Dame the weekend before. Is he going to go back there on the day after? He's going to be home for the week. They're on break from IMG, and I think he's going to be at whatever school. So it's interesting he's going to Notre Dame before. So, I mean, I guess he could go 2 weekends in a row. I don't know where Notre Dame's at on the 9th, but that's just my wheels turning.
Right. I mean, 99 times out of 100, once they set a commit date, they already know where they're going to go. And I believe, didn't he already tell Chad Simmons he knows which school he's going to pick? So it could be, I guess, I hadn't thought of it through that lens of he could be sort of, I mean, the weekend before potentially fanning the flames or settling whatever the phrase is to Notre Dame staff.
Anything's possible, right? Anything's possible. Okay, next one. Go, Spencer. I know you. We got to shut her down here to let people.
A couple more here. AJ Harris.
I'm
calling out,
and I still feel good about him. But Clemson and Georgia, they've come on a lot stronger than I thought they were going to. If we were sitting here a month or two ago.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I just don't know. I mean, I think this is one of those situations where, similar to like Chris McClellan in the class of 2022, the longer he doesn't commit to Ohio State, the worse it gets for the Buckeyes. And so I've had AJ as an in. I still think I have him as an in, but I definitely think it's like, I don't like to be that guy. I don't like percentages, but I think it's like 52 to 48 at this point between Ohio State and Georgia or Clemson and Alabama and Notre Dame. I really think that it's certainly tightened up. I still have him in. That October 9th visit that he's making to Ohio State for the Maryland game is just huge.
I guess I'm 53% in, 47% out. How about that? I still feel right now I say in. I'm on the same wavelength, but I'm not confident about it. I know. I mean, the weekend at the opening, that week they spent with playing basically on a potential future Ohio State defense, essentially. I know that was a big week as far as relationship building goes, but
definitely
same page there.
All right, Spencer, last one or last two? How many you got?
Away. Last two. Richard Young.
I'm going to say in. I think Richard Young is in. I think Ohio State has separated itself from Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Florida State in that battle. Again, though, take it with a grain of salt because this is a kid in Florida. You just never know. And you don't know what happens on Ohio State's coaching staff if by some twist of fate, Tony Alford ends up getting a job somewhere as a head coach or an assistant offensive coordinator and wants to move on. Then the whole thing maybe needs a reset. But for right now, if I had to pick today, unequivocally, he's in.
I would say in, but I'm not as completely sold.
Okay. And last one, Troy Bowles.
I'm going to say in. I know when he camped at Ohio State, it seems like the Al Washington's personality, his coaching style, it would be a good fit for Troy and what he's looking for. I know Todd Bowles, who is the defensive coordinator at Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm a Chiefs fan, so he was my least favorite guy to meet at the Ohio State camps. But I mean, I think that sort of that foundation that was set there would be. I think that's working in Ohio State's favor. So I would say in as of today.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the crystal balls out there. I've seen the future casts. I know they're out there. I'm aware of them. I certainly take those things seriously. I just don't know yet from a numbers perspective what Ohio State's looking for at linebacker. I think that there's a clear need, since they're only going to sign 2 linebackers in the class of 2022, to go out there and go heavy at that position in 23. Obviously, there's the question marks with Sonny Styles as far as what position he really actually is. I know they really like that Tamir Robinson in Pittsburgh that I saw last week. And Troy is much more of this combination bullet / linebacker, the Court Williams type. And so because he's in that role and not a traditional outside linebacker or a Mike, I also am going to say in. And I think it's because I don't see Al Washington leaving Ohio State for quite a while. And so I feel comfortable with that. And these NFL coaches, the kids that have NFL coaches for parents or other, college coaches for parents, these kids and their parents love what the Ohio State coaching staff is about. And I think that even just a 5-hour opportunity to see that in person, like he got in June, is enough to make him really believe that Ohio State's the place for him. And I think that maybe that's, one of the earlier commitments. I don't think it's happening like next week or whatever, but I could see it happening this fall. That's it. That's it for me.
That's it.
That's all I got.
I mean, that is the
That's
perfect
got
ending. That is the perfect ending. Everybody's in. Every commit in America, every recruit in America is going to Ohio State, everyone. So you're welcome. That's Zack Carpenter, Spencer Holbrook. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. This has been Talking Stuff, brought to you by Buyers Automotive. If you're looking for a car, head to Buyers Auto. If you're looking for stuff, stay here. Head to LettermenRow.com. Thanks for watching.